Hello, hi, this is Kubeir. How are you today? Just want to check with you if you can actually hear me because I am just trying to check different connection, different place. Welcoming you all from this beautiful city of Vancouver on a very, very early Saturday morning, surrounded by seagulls who are okay. If you can already hear them, then you can see what they're doing around me. Oh boy, that's quite a noisy word. But if you can hear me, just give me a thumbs up so I know you can. I am working with a totally different system today, different surroundings because I'm not in my regular uh, office, so I have to do what I have to do. Oh, thank you. So many people already saying can do. Okay, thanks for the clarification. Perfect. So today is a delayed episode. I mean, we do this weekly roundup of Canadian immigration every Saturday. We missed last Saturday because I was a bit under the weather, and now that we are back, so we will probably concise a bit of information. Forgive the seagulls. I can't do much with it, and they will try to make themselves more audible as in how time goes. But I'll try to talk louder and keep my voice above theirs if I can. Before we start, I'm sure you can already hear me, but yes. So yeah, I'm in this beautiful, beautiful city of Vancouver. Actually, after being here for such a long time, this was the first trip I was making to Vancouver. I've been in the surrounding areas, but Vancouver was the first time. And I didn't make my bed in the hotel, and I didn't want to sort of take that surrounding, so I had to come down in the lobby and sit here. And I said, okay, early morning, it's nice weather, and it's nice to catch up with you. So, without further ado, without wasting your time, let's get on uh, with our roundup. Here goes. So we have the quote of the week, and that's how we usually start. And this one is from Napoleon, which says, "Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve." Well, if you also believe in this particular quote, then do comment below and let me know what you think about this. Immigration roundup for this week, starting with the provincial nominee programs. We have the Pnp who invited 51 new applications in their tech draw. For BCPNP, as you all know, you need a job offer from the employer in Canada. If you don't have a job offer from an employer in Canada, you probably will not be able to secure an invitation in any of their programs, except if you have graduated with a master's program in specific field of education which are already specified by them in their website. Obviously, Ontario will not stay behind. They also did their Pnp invitations. This time it was in their in-demand skills stream draw. This was the second draw that they had. It was under their EOI, expression of interest system. Mind you, there are only few streams of Ontario that are in their EOI system. Human capital priorities still remains on invite basis or notification of interest basis. So as and have they have, I mean, as and when they have notifications of interest to issue, they will issue for human capital priority stream, under which you have the generic draw or the general draw as well as the tech draw. Yes, there was a great general draw a couple of weeks back, which was sort of got everybody all excited. And yes, we do expect more tech or general draws to happen as well as the time progresses. Also, last week, which we didn't cover since we were not, doing this episode last week. So we also had a draw with Manitoba, and we also had a draw with Alberta. Now, with Manitoba, as most of you already know, you need a connection to the province. Without the connection to the province, you will not be able to apply. You will not even be able to create your expression of interest on their website. With Alberta, by now all of us know, in this particular draw from Alberta, the scores were well below. They were about in the range of 300. But we also know about Alberta is that there is no specific criteria that they will invite who they feel depending on their labor market priorities. So if you did not receive an Alberta invitation, don't feel that your profile is any less or any worse. It is just that at this point of time, Alberta has chosen to invite a different profile. Well, that is what we had for the provincial nominee programs. For in Canada programs, Canada is finally now working on a vaccine passport for international travel. Well, there was a lot of debate that should they go this way, they shouldn't go this way, what they should do, etc., etc. Well, they have finally decided that they will need to go on a vaccine passport way, because more and more countries, more and more airlines, more and more transport authorities are now expecting this, so that they can have some sort of normalcy return back when it comes to traveling. So yeah, Canada is finally working on it, and this should come back into play. Well, IRCC announced funding services for newcomers. Well, IRCC always, I mean, if you are a new immigrant in Canada, then you will realize that there are plenty of services that are available to new immigrants, from job search to translation services to helping you prepare your resume to giving you information about the services, benefits, helping you find community support. So all of that is done free of cost, of course, and that is funded by IRCC or the Canadian government. And this announcement came as that they will be adding to that funding another $100 million to ensure that settlement services continue for the newcomers, and more better services or a wider range of services is provided. Next in the section is the travel update. And for travel update, I mean, okay, I mean, this is, I mean, if you are hiding under a rock all this while, then obviously you don't already know this. But Canada finally, again, I wouldn't say finally, but yeah, Canada did, in spite of every single speculation, expectation, they did go ahead and extend the flight restrictions. And these flight restrictions were extended till the 21st of September. Not a good sign. And there has been a lot of debate about this particular subject. A lot of people say, well, there is a bias. A lot of people say, well, why are certain countries being allowed? Why is India is not being allowed, etc., etc., etc. Well, I am not the best person to give you any insight into that, because I don't know. I don't have the data that the people who are deciding this, on what basis they have made this. But what I can say is that a lot of numbers that you and I see is, to be very honest, sometimes skewed. A lot of people raise questions as to why United States was being allowed. Well, as of right now, only the fully vaccinated travelers, fully vaccinated tourists from US are being allowed, not everybody. So it's not like everybody from the US has been asked to come on into Canada. That's not happening. Also, so the tourists are being allowed, but only fully vaccinated tourists. Okay, it's not like anybody and everybody can come into Canada at this point of time. That is number one. Number two, the Delta variants, or the Delta as it is now being spoken about, the numbers are pretty scary elsewhere as well in terms of the infection rates. So Canada is doing whatever they think is required, because it's not only Canada which has restricted flights from India. There are several other countries also who have restricted flights going back and forth with India. I'm sure, as I said, the decision makers, whoever are deciding on these factors, they have some more data, they have some more relevant model in front of them based on which they have made this decision. And I just hope that this ends soon, because a lot of people are suffering because of this ban of these direct flights. The airfares have skyrocketed, and we're going to talk about the airfares in a bit, because I have a separate section for the students today. Just let me put that down so I don't forget it. Yes. So apart from that, a lot of people have been stuck, a lot of workers, a lot of families, a lot of permanent residents, citizens, of course, as I said, students. So these guys are all having lots and lots of issues. But yeah, let's just hope that this ends at the earliest. And yeah, that's all we can say for this time. Yes, so this was our update for this particular week. Nothing much, nothing more to add apart from what I've already told you. Now let's talk about things. Let me just put this aside, because there are just too. I'm not used to doing this from this small laptop that I have right now, and there are just too many screens open, and it is just completely clouding out my setup. So I'm just going to open the only screens I need. Then I will be more organized if the way I want to talk to you guys. Perfect. Okay. What else have we got here? Questions and answers. But before we go to the question and answers, let me talk about the international students and what's happening over there. Now, international students, a lot of you know that if you are an international student or if you know one, September intake is just around the corner. What, about 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, September intake is going to start. So if you are an international student who's going to be joining in Canada, first thing that you need to do is make sure you send your port of entry letter or a copy of your visa to the college. And the reason why I'm saying this is that in the past and also now, there are some colleges, not all universities, not all colleges, some colleges, and I cannot take names for obvious reasons, if they do not have a confirmation that you will be arriving or joining in this semester, they will just revoke your seat and they will send you a message saying that you do not have a seat anymore and go and defer to the next program. If you already are preparing and planning for your travel, if you suddenly have to get this kind of an email, it is really, really going to put your big spanner in your plans. So if you're an international student, make sure you send that letter to the college. That's the first one. Second, make sure your medicals are valid. As we already, whoever knows a little bit about immigration should also know that medicals are valid for 1 year. Especially with the students, it's strictly 1 year. With immigration, with PR applications and all, yes, there is an extension being given. That's a different matter. For international students, your medicals are valid for 1 year, especially if you're coming from the designated countries. The list and definition of designated countries is available on the CIC website. Now, you definitely need to have valid medicals. If not, if your medicals have expired or very, very close to expiry, your visa may become invalid. Okay, you may receive a message from IRCC telling you that your visa is no longer valid because your medicals have expired now. In such situation, what you can do is you can obviously quickly get another set of medicals done and then take that and upload it using the web form to IRCC. Now, what happens in such a situation is that it will take time. It will take time for you to get the medicals done. It will take time for you to send it to IRCC. It will take time for them to upload and obviously update it. It will take time. It is going to disrupt your travel plans. So if you're getting close to expiry of your medicals and you have your travels all planned, don't let this disrupt you, because even if you arrive in Canada, then also you will have a problem, because either they will not accept your documentation because your visa would have been rendered invalid, or even if they do accept your documentation, you will get a visa or a work, your study permit valid only for 6 months, which is what you would have been given a period of stay, just like a visitor or a normal person who comes to Canada as a visitor. And then after 6 months, you will then again have to get your permit extended, which is only going to create more hassles. You will have to spend more money, etc., etc. So save yourself all that trouble. If your medicals are expiring, get that done. Yes, airfares. Now, obviously, there are lots and lots of international students who are absolutely going bonkers trying to get to Canada for obvious reasons, because there are a lot of universities, colleges who are going to start hybrid or in-person classes. If you're going to be joining for in-person classes, then you will have to be fully quarantined. Basically means 2 doses of approved vaccine. But when it comes to the classroom attendance, I am not sure if they are insisting upon specific brand of vaccine. As long as you've taken two doses of vaccine, I think this is something which you will need to check with your college. Check with your college, ask them, and make sure you are aware if there are any specific quarantine requirements, if there are any specific vaccination requirements for you to attend in-person classes. It's extremely important. If it is a hybrid model, obviously you can study from home and you could be anywhere. You don't have to be in Canada for that purpose. But even if you're studying in Canada from home, and if it's a hybrid model and if you have to attend in-person classes as well, just find out if there are any specific vaccination requirements. Yeah, that's basically what I had for the updates today. Let's take the questions. And I know most of the questions are going to be about the draw and the PPR finalizations and the applications finalization. So let me take that in the beginning. Let me take that first of all, so that most of those questions are answered. FSW draws. Okay, a lot of people are always anxious about that. I myself am being very anxious about that. I have been saying, and I am still hopeful, and I'm still expecting that the FSW draws will resume in third quarter. I do not have any specific data or inside information to point you towards it. It is just my personal feeling, and this reason for this feeling is mainly to do with how everything else around the whole Canadian immigration is going in terms of the phased reopening, in terms of borders being opened, lots and lots of processes being eased out, Canada having a very positive vaccination program ongoing. All of this for me indicates that they should also normalize this. Having said that, Canada also is on its way. They're fast tracking on their way to completing their this year's immigration target and quota. Now, when I'm saying immigration target and quota, I do not mean the number of ITAs. Invariably, YouTubers and a lot of you people on the Facebook group, for some reason, confuse the immigration target that has been given on the Canadian immigration website, that the yearly target of 108,000 for economic program. So for some reason, people confuse that with the number of ITAs that they will issue. There is no connection. I mean, what is wrong with these people who come out on YouTube and say these things, that this is the number of ITAs to be issued? Where does it say number of ITAs? If it was going to be number of ITAs, it would say number of ITAs. It doesn't. It says people. Okay, so what does that people mean? In any given ITA, there are multiple number of people. So first of all, the number of ITAs that are issued, not everybody accepts it. Not everybody proceeds with that ITA. Okay, there are a lot of ITAs which are declined. Then when they submit their application, a lot of ITAs are rejected because of incomplete application. Then after you've submitted your application, a lot of applications are refused. So with all of this together, the number of ITAs cannot be equal to the number of immigration targets, because there is no balance there. Also, in one ITA could be one family. Okay, and if there is one family, means one family, as you can see behind me, a family could be one ITA, but they could have a couple. It could be with children, 2 children, 4 children, 6 children, 7 children. Mashallah, some of you might have that. So big families. So all of that is under one ITA. So where is the sense and the logic of saying one ITA equals to one immigration target? No, immigration target is for the number of people, landed immigrants. Okay, so it could have been one ITA, but number of people arriving on that ITA could be 4. So the quota that will be calculated will be for the 4 people, not one ITA. So ITA is not equal to the immigration targets that you are seeing. Please get that out of your head. Sometimes it just is irritating to see that constantly coming. Oh, the quotas are over. Oh, the targets are over. Where does it say that? On the contrary, as of last month, I think the immigration target numbers that have been achieved is 180,000 or in the range of that. So IRCC has already, more activity going on now at the back, which will basically mean I will sort of put this on pause, get back to my room, because it is slightly more softer, and probably I'll be able to talk to you from there. But anyways, so let me quickly finish. What I was saying is that I lost my chain of thought. Yes, so the ITA numbers are not equal to the numbers of immigration target, and Canada is on track for achieving their target for 400,000 people for this year. They already have about 180,000. That was the last number I read. 180,000 people have already been confirmed as permanent residents for this year. So they are well on their way of achieving that 400,000 target for this year. At least that's what's being claimed. Now, when that happens, how that happens is something which we've got to wait and watch. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get out of this place so that we get into a bit more comfortable area. Right. So what we were trying to do is we were talking about the 3 issues, right? The federal skilled worker draws, the applications being finalized, and I don't know what was the third thing. We forgot about the third thing, right? So this is what happens. Chain of thought gone, finished, poof. Okay, so again, as I was talking to you about the immigration targets, so the immigration targets that you see on the Canadian immigration website, and Let me see if I can find them. Immigration quotas, CIC. Let me know if you can see that. Yes. So these are the immigration targets. Okay. As we all know, these immigration targets for 2021 are total of 401,000. Okay. The low range was 300,000. The high range is 410,000. And for some reason, everybody talks about this 108,500 target. I mean, for some reason, everybody says that this is the number of ITAs that will be issued, whereas I just explained to you that this has no relation, no relevance, no connection to the number of ITAs that will be issued, because this is for the number of people. Okay, people as we have seen in some of these Instagram videos. So these are the number of people. This has got nothing to do with the number of ITAs. That is number one. Number two is, as we scroll down, and obviously there's a long list of different categories of people under which the immigration targets are achieved. Okay, AIPP targets do not come under the economic program. So basically under the express entry, federal skilled worker, CEC, it doesn't come under that. Your economic pilots also don't come under that. So your AIPP is 6,000. Your other economic pilots, which are basically your agro-food, so there is another program under the construction. Then there is the rural and northern immigration pilot. All of those are separate. The federal business immigration programs are your self-employed, your startup visa. Those are the other categories of visas under which the people are also calculated. Then there is this huge, big chunk of 80,800 provincial nominations. Okay, the provincial nominee programs. This is also equally large. This 80,800, if you see that, and most of you are already aware that they get invited under the express entry, right? So the number of invitations that are issued also counts towards people who get nomination. Now, I'm not saying all 80,000 receive the nomination. There are lots of provincial nominee programs that are linked to express entry. Some of them are not linked to express entry. So there is no connection between the two. And therefore, the total economic program quota is for 232,500. Okay, 232,500. And somebody just said that immigration minister tweeted today regarding 184. Yes, exactly. That is what I was talking about it earlier, that Canada is on its way for achieving their annual target for 400,000. They have already achieved, or rather they have already made 184,000 people as permanent residents. So this is something which you guys need to take care of. For someone who is saying my screen is not clear, I mean, as far as my screen is concerned, my screen is clear, and the stream, I'm sure, is also clear. Excuse me. What you can do is you can always, I'm going to put this link in the comments. You can always also check this link. Please check this link. I've just posted in the comment section. You can see this is on the CIC website. You can go there, you can check for it directly, and you will know what the immigration targets and quotas are. So the point I'm trying to make is that there are other categories as well. There is the spouses and children, the grandparents, and that is 103,500, and etc. And then there are refugees and the humanitarian. The point I'm trying to make is, first of all, last year, Canada did not achieve its immigration target. The quota was about 340,000. They got only 150, 160,000. So there is a big gap there that still needs to be completed. Obviously, by the time we come to the month of October, we will hear of new targets. We will hear of for another, because they issue a 3-year plan. So then we will hear the targets for 2022, 2023, 2024. So basically another 3 years of targets. So you will, if Canada is going to continue progressing the way they are in terms of the immigration targets, you probably will see a targets in the range of 440, 450,000 for the year 2024. So don't be too caught up on the numbers. As much as these are targets, they are not fixed targets. It's not like the minute they achieve 400,000 people, the 400 400,001, 400,002, 400,003, those will not be allowed to come into Canada. It's not like that. It's a guiding range, okay? And because they can issue invitations, they can finalize applications, but they cannot control when the people will arrive in Canada. And people can arrive into Canada at any point of time within the validity of their visa periods. So the point again and again I'm trying to make is, please do not get stuck up on these quotas, these figures, these targets. This don't let that demotivate you. Don't let that confuse you. Don't let that sort of create that panic in your head that this is going to happen now, that this is gone, this is finished, no more, nothing happening. There are these immigration channels who will also sensationalize any small part of the news. For example, there was this TR to PR pathway. Now, TR to PR pathway had this stream which eventually closed, the essential worker stream. And they came up with this big news which said, bad news, Canada immigration program shuts down. Canada shuts down its immigration program, something of that sort. And like, can you imagine the kind of panic it created amongst people? Everybody started thinking, okay, that's the end of Canadian immigration. And all they were talking about is some stream which had nothing to do with people outside Canada. That stream eventually closed down because obviously that stream had a fixed number of quotas. So, take all this information that you read on social media groups, on YouTubes, on all these places with a pinch of salt. Always go back and make a logical deduction from what you're hearing, from what you're understanding, and then come to that kind of decision, or that kind of synopsis, if you want to call it. But yeah, so FSW draws. Now, I think we deviated from what you were talking. FSW draws. The way I look at these draws, I absolutely believe, I feel, I am absolutely hopeful that I intend to see, that I will definitely see a draw, a federal skilled worker draw in the third quarter. At least I'm maintaining that. Fingers across, and I said earlier also, that is only because there is so much of positivity around this whole pandemic situation going on in Canada right now. We're progressing towards the normalcy of things. I'm in Vancouver right now, as I just said, and I don't feel any restrictions. You see, I'm not wearing any mask, and I'm inside a hotel, and there's nobody else wearing a mask. When I came and checked into the hotel, I was told, well, masks are not compulsory. They're recommended, but they're not compulsory. You don't have to wear masks. Like, okay, all right. And I'm just coming from Ontario, where masks are still a mandatory requirement in most indoor confined spaces. But over here, it's not a requirement. And I was in Whistler yesterday, and that was, again, another place where it felt like, everything is back to normal. So things are moving back to normal. People are more, accommodating. Having said that, the COVID numbers are back to rising up again in Canada. Canada actually is seeing the variants hitting back again. There is also a lot of news about Canada entering the fourth wave already, or just about to enter the fourth wave, and that is also creating a bit of frenzy. It is creating a bit of, I won't say fear and panic at this point of time, because the numbers are well within control. They're well within, not too high, thankfully, but the numbers are rising, and because the numbers are rising, they just want to be a bit more cautious before it sort of creates any more havoc at all in any manner. Will there be an FSW draw? Well, that is what I'm trying to talk and tell you, that I personally of the opinion. Now, it is my opinion. Everybody has a right to opinion. Now, my opinion is that there will be a draw. There will definitely be a draw. Again, that is, as I said, my opinion. I could definitely be wrong. I don't want to be wrong. I would hate for it to happen, or rather for the draws to not happen, and therefore me being wrong. And as I said, I've given you the logic why I feel that FSW draws will return back. Yes, earlier in the year, Immigration Minister did mention about the fact that they're wanting to concentrate on the people inside Canada. It made more sense. It was logical, and I understand that. Okay. That situation is now changed because we are back to returning things to normalcy. We are seeing more things happening progressively towards the normalcy. So I do expect the federal skilled worker draws to resume. I have always maintained third quarter, and I'm hoping it will be third quarter. It just is a logical thing to happen. Now, on that note, there was also another question which is very, very common and bothering so many of out there, and that has to do with the finalization of the applications, the PPRs. Why are they not coming? Why are they still holding back? I mean, just in case, in our last YouTube that we did, I shared with you some documentation which we saw on Twitter, which were obtained through ATIP notes, and they talked about the level of staff that were operational or working in different visa offices across the country, or rather across the world actually. And at one point of time, less than 66% of the staff were not working. So there was only 33% staff who were actually working across the world. And IRCC, mind you, has a huge number of staff, uh, and that was a big number. Even after that, there were a lot of difficulties in terms of how they were operating or how they were working from home, and there's a lot of things that have come up to the surface, and I'm sure there will be some inquiries that will be conducted, because that is already being spoken about, as to how badly certain things were managed or handled, because staff were not given training. They also had a problem securing that many number of laptops for people to work from home. Then I've said this before, that there was a serious concern with the kind of secure line they could establish. The visa officers were not able to sort of access a lot of information, because which is confidential, so they could only do part of the work at home. For the rest of the stuff, they had to come back to the office. Then there was COVID protocols being followed in the office. Not everybody could work from the office at the same point of time. It was restricted number of people in the office, and therefore all of this made a bit of, not a bit, rather a huge difference. Then when IRCC decided to hold back the processing, or rather the finalizing, so they continued to process the application. They already maintained that they will continue to process the applications, but they did hold back on the finalization of application, and that information also sort of shared with you of whatever we received. Now, when they held back the application, what they did was they continued to process the application right till the final stage, where the final passport request has to be issued. After that, it is quite obvious that one of the biggest deciding factors on the validity of your visa is your medicals, right? Everybody knows that. They automatically started giving extensions of medicals. Now, when they give medical extensions, it is primarily based on your health conditions, okay, and the country that you're coming from, and if you've had any past conditions which could be considered as dormant or active, etc. So there was different classifications of M1, M3s of your medical health conditions, which you can also see on your, I think, in your GCMS notes if you want to see it. If your health conditions were considered to be absolutely fine, normal, no issues there, you were given extension. 6 months to 1 year is what was given to most people. Others, not so much. There were a lot of people who were actually requested for updating their medicals or to redo their medicals, which was all positive, because they wanted to keep the medicals on file active. Now, this last news that we heard was somewhere in the month of March. It should have expired in the month of May. That was for 90 days. From May, I expected that it would have been extended for another 90 days. So coming to somewhere now. But since June, all COPRs were allowed to travel. So that restriction basically no more is no longer warranted. And therefore the expectation is, or that this was always, and this was sort of put back, or this was resumed, or this was removed, or whatever is the right word you may want to call it. Having said that, all these different applications which were ready to be finalized had to be categorized in some sense of normalcy, in some sense of logical way of processing. Mind you, there are these tons of visa offices outside Canada. Obviously, inside Canada also there are these case processing centers. They all have to logically start processing. The importance was on first come first in first out, but I'm not sure how much they can control that first in first out because of different visa offices. But the condition that was mentioned was that they would start categorizing or start segmenting these applications under the different groups, which would show what would be the expiry of their COPR. So because it is linked to the medicals, so there were those documents which were expiring in 1 year, 6 months, 3 months, less than 3 months, because based on this you would be asked to redo your medicals. Okay. Also after that, you need to keep in mind for applications which were really old. For example, the ones which have been waiting since 2019, we are in 2021. You're almost coming to 2 years of your application submission. Background checks, police clearances, security checks, they all have expiries. When I'm saying expiries means when they conduct your background check, and there are so many GCMS notes, you will read that, or the status updates, you will read that, where it says background checks are valid, which basically means they did do your background check and it's valid for that period of time as and when they have updated you. If a time period passes, these checks would expire. They would need to redo it. So the point I'm trying to make is that there's a lot of work to be done. Under normal application processing, it could easily take 2 to 4 months to complete certain parts of the application processing. Obviously, there are applications that get processed much faster. They get processed in few days, few weeks, few months. But under the normal processing of the 6-month cycle that IRCC talks about for their application processing, it is expected that certain processes will take a bit more time than the others, and therefore, as and when the final decision is made to start releasing passport requests, you will see that it will follow in batches, because that is how the releases are done. It is done a batch release. So on one fine day, you will see from one particular visa offices hundreds of passport requests, and then after a few days there will be nothing else coming in, and then again after a few days you will see another set of passport requests. But it will, as I said, mainly be dependent on your medicals and what stage of your checks are valid or not valid. So your inadmissibility checks, security, criminality, those need to be checked again, because you could have been a bad boy or a bad girl, you would have been naughty, you could have done something silly out there. Those still need to be checked before you make your entry into Canada. Sorry. So these are basically the things on the background. Yes, all of us are frustrated as to why this is not happening faster. In some countries, there is still very strict protocol with COVID being followed. Canada, within their federal offices, they're still following strict protocols with COVID. I mean, I'm not going to defend them. I'm not going to sort of, take their side and say, no, they're doing everything within their control. I think a lot of these things could have been managed much better. They could have been done in a much, much better way. I mean, there are different kinds of businesses all across the world which are more sensitive, more concerned with the security of their data, with the kind of information that spreads out, and yet those companies manage to sort of work just fine. But with IRCC, we are seeing all these issues. There are lots of other embassies which have also started working. They were all back functional, but with IRCC, we are seeing these issues. So I'm not defending them. I'm just trying to give you my understanding of whatever is happening on the background, so that sort of gives you a bit more logical understanding of what to expect, and the fact that it will happen. You did have so much of patience. You waited for so long, all this while, for this thing to happen. I know the tempers are flaring. I've seen the Twitter feed. If you're not following me on Twitter, you probably will know that we have been actively raising up these issues again and again, and it's just a matter of time. It will happen, not because we have been raising the issue on Twitter, not because of that, but because it has to happen anyways. It will happen. It's just a matter of time. Again, as far as expectations are concerned, I expect fourth quarter. So fourth quarter basically would mean October, November, December. So I expect towards that time, when the chunk of this processes will start following through, that is my expectation. So I still expect this to be very, very slow. I won't say that none of this will happen. I'm saying that it will trickle out, very, very small trickle in ones and twos and fives and sixes is what you will start seeing probably September onwards. But October, November, December is when I expect to see the big chunk of applications being released or clearing out. Similarly, there are these inland applicants, FSW inland. So first of all, there was no such term as inland, outland. We have just created these terms. So there was only one category, federal skilled workers. Then there was a category of CEC. Then there was a category of FSTC. But we have now made these, these jargons of inlanders and outlanders, whereas there is no such thing as inlanders and outlanders. Okay. But even if you're a federal skilled worker, inland, as more of you would like to call it, it depends where your application was being processed. Just because you came in Canada or because you landed in Canada doesn't entirely change the processing of your application. It doesn't mean suddenly the IRCC will say, oh, he's moved to Canada, let's shift his application to Canada now. It doesn't work like that. Your application will still be handled in the visa office that was your primary or secondary visa office where it was being handled. It will continue to be handled over there. Because you are in Canada, they do not have to wait for finalizing your application just the way they were doing it for the other federal skilled workers. They may obviously send you ECOPR as well, so that part of the processing can be finalized faster. But that doesn't give you any specific big advantage versus people who are outside Canada, except for the last bit. Outside Canada, they will get PPRs, they have to submit their passports. Inside Canada, you will just get an ECOPR. You may not need to stamp your passports. That was the only difference. But for some reason, people felt otherwise. The third category of people were CEC applicants whose spouses were outside Canada, and they were also feeling the heat. They were also feeling the issue. Now, with such conditions, such cases, what happens is that because of the travel restrictions, some people were being held back, right? They were being, their PPRs or COPRs were not being issued, even if those people were inside Canada CEC. Well, we have already started. Mainly, this application was being handled by Edmonton. Mainly, these applications were being handled by Edmonton visa office, or I think there was also Montreal and Vancouver in those visa offices. And those did start trickling out. I mean, we've seen a trickle. We've seen quite a few PPRs coming through. I know a few of our clients who did receive their passport requests in such matters, but not everybody, not in a large number, not everybody who had this situation, everybody got it. No, as I said, it's a trickle. It will all depend on the visa office that was handling your application. Are they back resuming operations? Have they come back into the office? Are they back working full force? And depending on how they are placed in their offices, that's how their passport requests will start coming through. So this is basically the more common questions that I wanted to sort of take, because there are so many of these people, so many of you asking the same question. So I wanted to make sure that I cover this first, so then we know which way this is going. I have applied, Neha says, I have applied student visa under the non-SDS category, but now I have to drop my study thing. College will refund only when visa gets rejected. Very weird, but sir, how to get visa rejected? Good question. The best way to get visa rejected would be, if that's what you want to do, is submit a study visa application and give no documentation whatsoever. Okay, just submit the forms and don't provide any documentation, and your visa is. So yeah, that is the best way to get your visa rejected. Just submit the forms, or submit incomplete forms, or don't provide any documentation, and your application will get rejected. I mean, this is the first time somebody is asking me how to get my application rejected. But you know what? You don't even have to do that. You can ask. You can check the college refund policy and see what the refund policy is. If they are strictly basing it only on the rejection, then yeah, I understand what you're trying to do. But in some cases, they may also deduct a small administration fee and refund your money. So the best thing is to check the college refund policy. Probably that will help you. How in the world are they achieving the quota? All by CEC? Well, isn't that an obvious answer, Meher Joshi? That obviously there were so many applications which were being finalized, CEC applications which were being finalized. The CEC draws were being issued. If you remember, in the month of February, 13th or 16th February, the draw that happened, 27,332, with a score of only 75. Most of those people have already been approved. Most of them, not all, but most of them. Because it was only 75 CRS. So IRCC had a very easy job of conducting their assessment and they only had to validate 75 points to get somebody, to give somebody their approval for their PR. So they had to check whether the person was eligible under CEC, and two, whether they deserve to get 75 points. How difficult do you think that would be under those two criteria? So yes, a lot of people did get approved pretty quick. And again, mind you, it is not restricted to CECs only. There are humanitarian applications, there are refugee applications, there are family applications, there are business immigration applications. those also contribute to the application numbers, and the numbers are not restricted to ITAs. There are the number of people. Again, I'm just giving it you so that you have a perspective in place with all these things. I am on, I couldn't understand that word, visit a record, and recently I got a job offer and LMIA number. I want to apply for a work permit, but the problem is I cannot go flag polling, neither apply online because of the options. Again, so you can only apply for a work permit online unless you need accommodations or you're not able to do that because of certain challenges, physical challenges. So in that case, you can send a paper application form. After you have applied, you are on a visit visa, right? So after you applied for your work permit, you can raise a web form. They have a specific, if you go and check on their website, they have the specific web form and details there. You can, there is a certain code you got to use, visit work 2020 or something of that sort. If you use that code and request for authorization to work while they're processing your work permit application, you will receive it within 8 days to 2 weeks. You will receive your authorization to work and you will start working. Even while you're on a visit visa, you will have the authorization to work while they're processing your while they're processing your work permit application. So it's not really an issue. Apply for your work permit and then raise a web form and let them know that you want authorization to work because you're here already on a visit visa. But yes, as of right now, you cannot go flag polling. Okay, Parvez says, applied for federal consent in November 2017 after getting the CSQ from the province of Quebec under the business immigration. Still waiting, will appreciate if you comment on this. Well, paper applications, especially the Quebec immigration applications, Quebec business immigration applications, usually under the normal timeline can anywhere take between 3 to 5 years. If you actually go and see the IRCC processing time, let's check that. Okay, let's go and see that anyways. Let me just share my screen. If I choose permanent residence, I don't see economic immigration. These are the options that you have. If you choose this one, make your selection, Quebec business class. And if you click on processing times, it tells you 50 months. Okay, so that is what the average processing time is, 50 months, almost 4+ years. Add to that the COVID delays, and then you understand that you are pretty much within the average processing times. Okay, so yeah, expect a bit more time for them to sort of finish this off. Okay, Anshul, during PR application submission after ITA, is it advisable to show Form 16 in employment documents, and can an ADR of ITR or other tax come later on? So as long as part of your employment documents you have shown them some additional proof of you having received a salary, you don't need to show income tax returns. It's not a mandatory requirement, but if you show it, it's always good. IRCC can always come back and ask you for more documentation, more details, more information. Anyways, it's not like they will not come and ask you. They're absolutely within their rights to ask you for any documents at any point of time. So if you have them, provide it upfront. If you don't have them, your pay stubs or bank statements that show salary credit, that also work quite well. Because all IRCC is trying to establish is that if you were paid during that period of time or not. That is the most important fact. Shubham, can me and my wife create separate EE profiles and both have accompanying spouse to increase our chances, since I will be losing 5 points for age and my wife won't lose any? Well, I wanted to say something funny, but I'm not sure if that kind of a joke would make sense. Anyway, so to answer your question, yes, you can do that. There is nothing wrong in doing that. You both can create individual, separate express entry profiles. You will become a primary applicant, your wife will become a primary applicant in her profile, and you both can have accompanying spouses and answer that as yes, and that's absolutely fine. No issues with that. Shuja says, can I change my degree once I reach Canada? Can it affect my PR ambition later? I am not sure what exactly is the context here, but I'm going to assume you are asking me that you are an international student and you wish to come to Canada, and after you have arrived in Canada, can you change your program or not? So if you're an international student who has been approved, if you change your program while you're outside Canada, okay, then you will need to get a new port of entry letter. You will have to make a new application to IRCC without a doubt. If you are in Canada already and then you decide to change your college, your school, your university, your program, you can do that, no problem. If you do not change the college, you don't need to do anything. You don't need to inform anybody. You will simply change the program. If you change your college, then you will need to inform, not take approval, inform. You will need to inform IRCC. You can do it through your IRCC CIC account. It's a simple form that you need to complete, but you can definitely do that. There is no problem with that. Virat says, I am stuck in India, got portal email while living here, got credentials, and inform my presence in India via web form. Can I expect ECOPR and enter back on Canada on ECOPR basis? No, you cannot, because the condition for issuing ECOPR is that you are inside Canada. And the reason for that is, when you are inside Canada, they do not have to do the port of entry admissibility checks. So they can automatically issue the ECOPR to you, whereby you can then receive that and you will be on your way, you'll become a permanent resident. But if you are not in Canada, then that basically means your port of entry inadmissibility checks have to be done. Therefore, they cannot issue an ECOPR to you. If you do receive an ECOPR, you must inform IRCC that you are not in Canada. They will cancel your ECOPR. They will change your category back to a foreign national from a permanent resident or whatever. They have done it in the system. You will either need to come back to Canada on a TRV if you already have it, then inform IRCC, then they will issue your ECOPR again. Or otherwise, if you do not have a visa, then you will have to wait in your home country. Inform IRCC you cannot travel, you don't have a visa. They will send you a passport request as and when they start finalizing applications for people outside Canada. Once you get a passport request, you will have to get a PR visa stamped, get a COPR from the embassy, and then travel with that. But in your current situation, you cannot expect a COPR. If you do get a COPR, that is not valid. You will need to inform IRCC. You cannot travel with that ECOPR, mind you. So you don't want to get into trouble with that. Shweta says, will change in marital status while waiting for renewal of expired COPR affect processing time of application? I don't need to add my spouse in application. I have sent web query form to update status. Okay, so this is how it goes. Adding your spouse to your application is optional for you. So you can add your spouse as accompanying or not accompanying. That is optional. But if there is a change in family circumstances, like for example you got married, you have to inform. It's a mandatory requirement. If you don't do it, it can cause some very, very serious issues and consequences. So you have to inform IRCC that you have been married. IRCC will send you several forms. Okay, these forms need to be completed by you and your spouse. You will need to provide your spouse's medicals and police clearance, even if your spouse is not accompanying. So the amount of time that will be taken is same whether your spouse is accompanying you or not accompanying you. Okay, because you've got married after AOR or after your application has been approved, your scores will not be recalculated. Okay, but your spouse's inadmissibilities have to be checked, will be checked, regardless of whether your spouse is accompanying you or not accompanying you. So this thing that people have, that will it add processing time, etc., it's irrelevant, because it will happen. Obviously they will now need to reopen your application, and they are reopening your application not to check your assessment factors, but to check and add your spouse. So they will check your spouse's assessment factors, as in you don't need your spouse's ACA or IELTS, but you definitely need to provide your spouse's medicals and police clearance, because those two factors can affect your application. So if your spouse is inadmissible, then that makes you also inadmissible to Canada, and therefore they have to check the inadmissibility of your spouse. So as far as time is concerned, yes, it is going to add time. It will take time, but as I said, it is not optional. The only factor that is optional is that will your spouse accompany you in your to as a PR to Canada or not. That is the only optional factor here. Everything else is mandatory. You have to inform IRCC. They will take time. They have to check inadmissibilities, and this is something which has to be done. All right. Okay, I am going to take one more question, because to be very honest, my throat is totally gone. Sammy Dude says, thank you for super chat. I am an OINP PNP PR applicant. Do we need to upload Schedule 4 meant for PR nominees in Express Entry online PR application? Schedule 4 was a requirement, or rather is a requirement, if you are submitting a paper application. it is not a requirement if you are submitting an express entry online application, because there you are already expressing your intent already, and because you have a nomination, you've already expressed your intent there also. So there is no requirement to upload Schedule 4 in your application. If you want to upload it anyways, there is no harm. You can combine it or merge it with your letter of explanation. Can we show offer letter and relieving letter for spouse if we show his work experience, since we don't have reference letters? Can this lead to rejection under R10 completeness check? Your spouse does not add any points if the spouse's work experience is outside Canada. Because the spouse's work experience is outside Canada, it adds no points. Therefore, it will not affect your R10 completeness check, because it will not be a mandatory document to sort of affect the eligibility or CRS points for your application. If you have shown your spouse's work experience in the work history, you may upload whatever documents you have. It will not make any difference. If you have employment reference letter, upload it. If you have just the offer letter and relieving letter, show it, because as I said, it does not affect your eligibility and it does not affect your CRS points. In both cases, it doesn't matter. Whatever documents you have, you can provide that. क्या एक ही समय पर पति और पत्नी अलग अलग पीएनपी में आवेदन कर सकते हैं? आपके ज्ञान को नमन है। प्रदीप राठी जी, आपको भी नमन है। जी बिल्कुल, आप अलग अलग आवेदन पत्र डाल सकते हैं, उसमें कोई आशंका नहीं है। आप प्रोविंशियल नॉमिनी प्रोग्राम्स में पति और पत्नी अलग अलग अपने एप्लीकेशन, अपने प्रोफाइल्स क्रिएट करिए, बिल्कुल अलग अलग सबमिट करिए। देखिए, प्रॉब्लम सिर्फ इसमें यह है कि आप जब अपना एप्लीकेशन सबमिट करते हैं, आप पति और पत्नी दोनों अपने जब एप्लीकेशन को जब सबमिट करेंगे, उसमें आप प्रोविंस से ये कहते हैं कि हम आपके प्रोविंस में रहना चाहते हैं। हमारा ये प्रयत्न है कि हम अपनी जिंदगी, आपके जिंदगी गलत बोल रहा हूँ, जिंदगी उर्दू हो गया, ठीक है ना, कि हम अपनी क्या बोलते हैं, जिंदगी का हिंदी वर्ड अभी याद नहीं आ रहा, सो आई विल नॉट गेट टू मच इनटू दैट, कि हम आपके प्रोविंस में रहना चाहते हैं। और क्योंकि हम आपके प्रोविंस में रहना चाहते हैं, और अगर आप अलग अलग एप्लीकेशन सबमिट करने वाले हैं या फाइल करने वाले हैं, तो मतलब आप इस प्रोविंस को कह रहे हैं हम आपके साथ आपके प्रोविंस में रहना चाहते हैं, दूसरे प्रोविंस को कह रहे हैं आप आपके प्रोविंस में रहना चाहते हैं, जो कि कॉन्ट्रडिक्टरी हो गया। और क्योंकि कॉन्ट्रडिक्टरी हो गया, तो फिर आपके एप्लीकेशन में प्रॉब्लम आ सकती है। तो अगर आप सिर्फ एक्सप्रेशन ऑफ इंटरेस्ट क्रिएट कर रहे हैं तो करें, उसमें कोई इश्यू नहीं है। अगर आप एप्लीकेशन सबमिट कर रहे हैं, मतलब फी पेमेंट कर रहे हैं, डॉक्यूमेंट्स अपलोड कर रहे हैं, एक्सप्रेशन को अपने इंटेंट को एक्सप्रेस कर रहे हैं, उस केस में एक ही प्रोविंस के साथ जाएं। अलग अलग प्रोविंसेस में जाएंगे तो आपके एप्लीकेशन को प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगी। So I'm sorry guys, I don't see any other super chat. We'll take this as well. What is the impact of upcoming election on the applications waiting for PPR? There is no impact of the elections on the upcoming there is no impact on the applications because of the upcoming elections. First of all, the elections haven't been announced, but yes, we do expect that there will be in elections being announced. I don't expect any issue whatsoever. IRCC is an independent federal government department which runs based on their policies and processes which have already been established. So change in the government will change policies. It will not change the processing of what's already in place. Mrs. My San says, I'm a restaurant owner. I want to apply for PR in Canada. What documents should I pass instead of employment certificates? Well, you will need plenty of documents. You will now need to show that you're an owner, you're a self-employed. You will need to show your business's reference letters from third parties. So your clients, your vendors, people who are doing business with you. You will need to show your business's bank statements, income tax returns, invoices, receipt of payments, and you will need to prove that you were working for the number of hours per week that you are claiming. Watch my other video. I have done a very detailed video on this, which talks about self-employed work experience. If you go down to my channel and scroll through the videos that I've done, you will be able to find this. Okay, I don't know, somebody was talking about super chats, but I'm sorry, I cannot see any other super chat at all. I mean, I didn't want to miss it, but I'm sorry, Mehak, but I don't see any other super chat. If I was to see it, I would definitely, unfortunately, I cannot see any other super chat at all. No, unfortunately, nothing there. Guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. The channel numbers are always good. We are fast reaching 50,000 subscribers. ridiculous number, to be very honest, for the kind of quality that I give you in my channel. But no, I mean, yeah, just hit the subscribe button. That's the good thing to do. If you're not following us on Instagram, please do come and follow us on Instagram. It's always nice to interact with people there as well, and we do update the news information as they happen first there. If you wish to make an appointment, then that's the link. Feel free, make an appointment, discuss your application one-on-one. I'll be happy to sort of answer your queries and understand your profile better. If you have any inquiries on our commercial services, drop an email here. And again, we'll be very, very happy to take care of that. Thank you so much for joining in. This is me signing out from the beautiful city of Vancouver. Talk to you guys later.